Hi everyone, I'm Cornell. Welcome to my Blooming Bakes channel, and today I am going to show you my buttercream recipe that I use for piping buttercream flowers. It's an American style buttercream. You can also use Swiss or Italian meringue buttercream, but it's quite a bit more tricky to make, and I find American buttercream easier to pipe with as well. So you only need 3 ingredients for American buttercream. It is butter, icing sugar and a bit of liquid, and we'll talk you through the exact measurements now. You need a very specific consistency of American buttercream to pipe your flowers, otherwise your petals won't stand up. Right, so in terms of the butter, you want a very good quality butter with a high percentage fat, at least 80% as a minimum, if not more. And you will find that information somewhere on your packaging. This one is, it just says minimum 80% butter fat. So good quality butter. Don't use stork or any dairy-free alternatives, because the consistency won't be right and you won't get the correct stiffness in the buttercream for your piping. So room temperature, so it's nice and squishy. You can see I can squish the butter like that, but it's not melting yet, so it's not too soft. And you don't want it too cold either, because that will affect your buttercream as well. Right, okay, so that's the butter side. I've already measured out 300 grams of a good quality butter. Now, for the icing sugar, you obviously have a few options. I'm using Silver Spoon icing sugar, which is a proudly British product. And then the con of Silver Spoon is it's got a big icing cloud, so you might want to have your goggles ready. It is produced in the UK with a UK homegrown sugar beets. You also have in the UK Tate and Lyle as alternative, which is produced in the UK but with imported sugarcane, so that doesn't produce such an icing cloud. So if you prefer not to have the cloud, then possibly look at Tate and Lyle. Right, so for Silver Spoon icing sugar, you might want to put your goggles on, and we're going to measure 680 grams of sugar. Right, put your scales on. 680 grams of icing sugar. Here we go. Here comes the cloud. Okay, that will do. Put that there. Oh, you see, quite a cloud. Right. We're just going to pop that on the side. You can see where my scale was standing. It is honestly ridiculous. If you do this a few times every day, you have a lot of cleaning up to do in your kitchen. Right, so we're going to beat the butter now on a high speed until it goes to a really pale, almost white color. And it can easily be 5 minutes beating, if not more. So we're going to give that a good beating. I like to scrape down my bowl just sort of 1 or 2 minutes into the beating, just to make sure. You'll see actually when you scrape it down that on the outsides of the bowl it's still a yellow color and it's starting to pale in the middle. So scrape it down after 2 minutes or so, and then you continue beating until it's nice and fluffy, and I'll show you the difference once we're done, yeah. Okay, and I'm now going to beat it again for at least another 3-4 minutes. Okay, it's already looking much paler, and I'll show you the consistency in a minute. So you can see now already, I'm going to open this packet to show you, it's already a much lighter color than what it comes out of the packet. Can you see that? So that's quite yellowish and it's starting to turn quite pale. And the more you beat your butter, the whiter it will go. So if you want to work with light colors, it is even more important to really beat it for a long time. So I'm just scraping down the sides and I'm going to give it one more go to get it just a little bit paler. Right, you can see it from there on the camera already. It's really turning a nice pale color now. Look at that compared with the yellowish from the packet. Nice and fluffy and turning quite white. You can actually really leave your mixer on and go and do something else while you beat your butter. Also note I'm using the paddle attachment. If you're using your whisk attachment, you're going to struggle a little bit, especially initially when the butter is still a bit firm. But with a whisk attachment, you're also going to put a lot of air bubbles in your buttercream, which you don't want. So use your paddle attachment for the whisking of your buttercream. Right, we're going to add about half of our icing sugar to this now, give it a good beating, and then add the other half. You'll also notice I'm not sifting my icing sugar. Theoretically you should, but I found with piping buttercream flours, it really doesn't make a difference. So I've stopped sifting mine and I just add it just like it is into my buttercream. If you want to sift it, of course, it's up to you. You're going to produce even more of an icing cloud. But definitely if you're working with a big cake, your consistency is going to be different, but with a big cake you do want to sift your icing sugar if you want to get smooth edges around the side. But for buttercream flours, honestly, it's not necessary. Right, goggles. Pop the goggles on. Half your icing sugar. Here comes the cloud. Whoa. It's about half. Start on quite a low speed, because if you turn your mixer on too high when you've added your icing sugar, it's going to go poof. So just start slow so you can just incorporate a tiny bit and then you can turn it up to high. Okay. So we're going to add the other half now. So I just like to scrape it down again. Scrape down the sides just to make sure there's nothing stuck at the bottom. There we go. Okay. Other half. Goggles on. Other half the icing sugar. Oh, there we go. And turn on to slow to start with. Ooh, let's see. I think it's safe to remove the goggles now. Right, okay. So slowly to start with, just incorporating it. And then you can turn it up high. Okay. So at this stage, you've got all your butter and all your icing sugar, and you'll see it's really, really thick now. You see, you actually have to like push it out of your paddle attachment. It's so thick. So we're now going to add liquid to get it to the right consistency for piping our buttercream flowers. You'll be surprised how little liquid we use for this. So for this amount of buttercream, 300 grams of butter and 680 grams of icing sugar, I am going to use only 2 to 3 teaspoons of liquid, and that includes my flavouring. So we're just going to do a vanilla flavour for today, and I'm going to add, scraping down the sides again before I add the liquid. Right, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of a good vanilla extract, and that's half of our liquid done. And I'm going to add just 1 teaspoon of water. A lot of buttercream recipes will require milk. Now, if you use full fat milk, you will get a slightly creamier texture, but the moment you use milk in your buttercream, you're also reducing the shelf life of your buttercream, because of course milk can go off. So I just use water in my buttercream, and it means I don't have to worry about how long the buttercream is standing out for, or you know, milk going off in the ingredients. So we've got 2 teaspoons of liquid in there. We're going to whisk it around now on high, still on your paddle attachment. You'll actually see the colour change at this stage as well. Once you've added your liquid, it goes quite nice and pale, as you can see there. Now, as you experiment with buttercream flowers, you will, you'll get familiar with the thickness of your buttercream. I'm just looking at it now, and this particular batch, I think I need about half a teaspoon more. It's also going to depend on your climate, on where you are in the world. I mean, in the UK today it's 19 degrees as a max, so it's not particularly warm. But if you are in South Africa or a country where it's really hot, I mean, a few weeks ago we had a heat wave in the UK, and it was, I think, 33 degrees Celsius. And that day I had particularly a lot of cupcake bouquets to make, and I've used no liquid whatsoever in my buttercream that day. So the standard recipe is 2 to 3 teaspoons of liquid, but do adjust it according to your climate where you are, and use less if it's really, really hot. So I'm going to add another half a teaspoon. When it gets to this stage, just add little bits of liquid until you get to the right consistency, because it changes very quickly with very little. That looks about right. So you can see it is thick enough that it's not going to just droop off your paddle attachment. You actually still have to push it off. You can see how thick it is. But I'm going to take this bowl off and show you. This is perfect consistency for piping your buttercream flowers. And also remember, when you're going to colour your buttercream for your flowers, even when you use gel colouring, you're still adding a tiny bit of liquid to your buttercream. So you definitely don't want to make it too soft at this stage. Right, let me show you. Just scooping off everything on the sides. There, we've got it. So you can see, if I smooth it like that, it's nice and thick. Okay, if you take a scoop, it's actually quite stiff. You know, I really have to use a bit of muscle to get it out. And it's definitely not dropping off my utensil there either. So this is what you are looking for, but it is, you know, easy to swipe like that. So it's definitely soft enough to get out of the piping bag. And that is my standard recipe for piping buttercream flowers. This amount of buttercream will give you enough to pipe a dozen flowers, so 12 cupcakes. If you just did normal cupcakes in a box with swirl and sprinkles, this will actually give you 24 swirls or cupcakes. But for buttercream flowers, you need much more buttercream, so I would say this amount is enough for 12 buttercream flowers, and you're going to have a little bit left afterwards. So it's actually quite nice if you start out, because then you don't have to worry too much if you work with different colors about how you split your buttercream to do all the different colors. If you get really used to working with buttercream flowers, then half this recipe is enough for my smallest cupcake bouquet of 7 cupcakes. But then you have to be really precise with your colors, because you'll literally have just, if you work with, for example, with 3 colors and half this recipe, then you have to be very precise with splitting your buttercream to get all your colors and all the flowers. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked the video, hit like, and if you want to see more in the future, please hit subscribe. And down below the video, I have the recipe in summary and some links to all the equipment I've used today. All right, see you next time. Bye.